Hey there, I'm Dayna Johnson, dental practice management expert, certified Dentrix trainer, and founder of Navoni, revolutionizing the dental industry through innovation and strategic leadership. It wasn't long ago that I lived in your shoes, navigating the daily challenges of managing a dental practice with the hopes and dreams of having a productive schedule, money in the bank, and getting home on time to my sweet daughter. After 25 years working in the dental practice and 17 years as a certified Dentrix trainer, I found my life's work, helping dental teams one-on-one, optimizing their systems and software. If you are looking to create the thriving dental practice you have always dreamed of and empower your high-performing dental team, you are in the right place. Let's get started.
So a couple of weeks ago, I talked about forecasting your production. And I talked about like 3 different places in your Dentrix software where you can visually see your forecasted production. So that way, when you are at a glance looking at, okay, what have we produced this year or this month? What are we still have on the books for the rest of the month? Where are we at? This will really give you an indicator, maybe halfway through the month, where are we at? Are we going to make goal? Are we going to produce what we need to produce in order to make payroll or, get that bonus check that we're looking for? Or maybe we're trying to, get tickets to Thrive Live or whatever your bonus structure might be. Are we going to make it? And so I talked about the 3 different ways that you can visually see on your appointment book or on a report, where are we at for the month? Where are we trying to get to? Now, what I didn't go through, and I told you I would go through it in a little bit more detail in an upcoming podcast, would be, how do I enter the goals? And that way we can see, not only can we see forecasted production, but we can also get a preview for, are we going to make goal? So what's our scheduled production in comparison to our goal? And one of those things that I talked about, giving you a visual aspect of seeing your scheduled production and like your forecast, is that calendar, in the upper left corner of your appointment book. There's a little calendar there. And if you click on, I think it says scheduled production, it'll show you what you have scheduled for the month and what you have scheduled for each day. I love this quick little visual because it's so easy to get to. And you can set up a view for each of your hygienists. You can set up a view for each doctor. You could set up a total office view. So one thing I want you to remember about that view that I talked about in the upper left corner, that little calendar, is it's going to show you production for the providers you have selected in your view. And so a lot of times people will reach out to me and they say, well, Dayna, it's not accurate. It doesn't show me exactly what we have scheduled, or it doesn't show me the production accurately. And so it's very possible that you just need to alter your view or edit your view so that it reflects all the providers that you want to look at, because it is going to calculate the production based on the providers you have selected in your view. Now, another thing I love about that little calendar is it will show you your goal. And so if you want to take it a little step farther and go in and add your production goals, the production goals will also show on the daily Huddle report. So the daily Huddle report was another option I gave you when you are viewing, like on a report, what have we scheduled? What have we produced for the month? What do we have produced? What do we have scheduled for today? And then what do we still have scheduled for the rest of the month? So the Daily Huddle report is also a really great report for showing you forecasted production. I talked about that in a couple of weeks ago. Now, the Daily Huddle is also a place where you can enter in those goals. And then the third option I gave you was on a forecasted production report in the Dentrix reports module. And that will also show you your production goals for each provider. Now, one thing that I wanted to go over with you today is, how do I actually enter those goals so that you can see if you are making goal for each of your providers and for your total office. So the best way to create goals, of course, goals are not like pulled out of the clouds, out of the sky. Production goals are calculated numbers based on overhead. We don't just pull production goals, from thin air. We actually have to do a calculation and find out what is our production goal going to be. And so the production goal is going to have to be calculated based on your practice overhead, which if you're an office manager or you're a team member listening to this, you probably don't have access to that data. So this will have to be something that is calculated from the practice owner, the doctor, the CPA, the financial advisor, probably the people that are executives, practice owners, doctors, CPAs, financial advisors for the practice. So if you don't have production goals, you are going to need to ask your doctor, what are our production goals? They're probably going to give you an annual production goal or maybe a monthly production goal. And then we have to drill it down into a daily production goal based on each provider. So also going back to how do I even get my production goal? It's all based on collections. And so the way this conversation actually works between the doctor, practice owner, and the CPA or the financial advisor is, this is what I want my overhead to be. And so we want practice overhead to be somewhere between 55 and 65%. And then the practice owner, the doctor would then ask the next question, what do I have to collect in order to get my overhead to this number? Now, if you're an office manager or hygienist, you probably don't have access to those numbers. And so you're going to have to rely on your doctor to get this calculation, this collection goal. And then once we know the collection goal, we can calculate, okay, what do we need to produce in order to collect this? Because collections, you should be collecting at least 98% of your production. So once you have the collection goal, you should be able to calculate the production goal. Now, the next step is how do we get a production goal for each of our providers? Hygienists should be producing 3 times their compensation, total compensation, not 3 times their wage, their total compensation. And so since a hygienist is a producer, we want to look at what is her total compensation. That includes not just her salary, not just her wage, but also any benefits that she might be receiving, or he, sorry guys, I'm leaving you out of this, but the hygienist, any benefits that the hygienist receives. If you get an allowance for your scrubs, if you get an allowance for any kind of supplies that you might purchase specifically for you, that's a benefit.
Did you know that you could increase your team's productivity by up to 200% if you had a formal team training program in place? And businesses that do have a formal team training program in place also enjoy up to a 24% increase in profit margin. If you want to learn how and book a call with me, click on the show notes and book a free discovery call with me, and we will talk all about it.
And that's included in your total compensation. If you get medical healthcare benefits, if you get a gym membership, if you get daycare compensation, if you get a shoe allowance, if the doctor buys your loops, if the doctor pays for your CE, if the doctor pays for your vacation hours, your holiday pay, all of those things are included in total compensation. And that is all calculated for us to be able to calculate the hygienist production goal. So if the hygienist needs to produce 3 times their total compensation, we have to calculate all of that. Now, if you want my tip sheet on calculating total compensation, I can send it to you. So if you want to, just in the comments, you can click on compensation. We'll send you the compensation worksheet so that you can, maybe we'll keep it more simple. Maybe if you just click on like wages, or if you just click on wages, we'll send you the total compensation worksheet. That way, you can get the compensation worksheet, and then you can start to calculate what your hygiene goal is. And once you've calculated your hygiene goal, that's a daily goal, then how many hours per day does your hygienist work? Once you've calculated your hygiene daily goal, then we can get the doctor's goal, because the doctors, you have to produce everything else, right? And so if you're looking, let's say, for example, your daily production goal is $10,000 a day. Total production goal for the office is $10,000 a day. And you have 2 hygienists per day and you have 1 doctor. Then if you calculate your hygiene production goal, let's say it comes out to, $1,500 a day for each hygienist. So that's $3,000 a day in production goal for the hygiene department. The doctor has to produce $7,000 a day. And so that kind of gives you an idea of how we then put the goals into our Dentrix software so then we can track it. Okay. I know that sounded like a lot, but it's really not. Once you start doing it on a regular basis, it's really not a big deal. What I used to do in my practice, total old school. I mean, I know sometimes we have to use paper to calculate things. Total old school. I would print out a blank schedule. And then, so we had different hygienists on different days. We had different hygienists that worked different hours. So for me, it was always easier just to old school handwrite on each day. How many hygienists did I have? How many hours did they work? Because we're looking at patient hours and what is that hygienist goal? In my practice, we had hygienists that were restorative hygienists. So they were doing composites. They were doing a lot more periotherapy. So we had some hygienists where their goal was a little bit higher because they were doing restorative procedures or a lot of perio. They had a higher percentage. They had a higher goal. If they also had a higher total compensation, they also had a higher goal. And so then if we had other hygienists that were doing more of the, healthy adults, and maybe they were right out of school, maybe their total compensation wasn't as high, so they might have a different goal. So you may have different hygienists that have different production goals based on their skill, what they do in the practice. Their goal could also be different based on their total compensation. So that could be different. Now, if you want to just average out your hygiene goal so that your hygienists don't feel weird that, okay, this hygienist has this goal, has a $2,100 production goal, and this hygienist, their production goal is only $1,400. You may get a little bit of competition there if you want to just average out the goals so it makes it a lot easier and your hygienists don't fight over the production goals. That's totally fine. You'll figure it out in your own practice. Now, if you want to work with me directly on some of this, you certainly can reach out to me directly. Okay, so once we know what the production goals are, then we go into the Dentrix system and we add the goals. That way it'll show up on the monthly calendar, it'll show up on the daily Huddle report, and the goals will show up on our forecasted production report. So I'm going to quickly tell you how to do that. Go to the Office Manager where it says Analysis. You can click on Analysis at the top, go to Practice, and then you're going to go into Setup Goals. And each of the goals are set up by provider, and they are a daily production. It's a monthly production goal. So that's why I love just handwriting it out onto a monthly calendar and then add up every day. Okay, this hygienist, her production goal is $1. This hygienist production goal is $30,000. This hygienist production goal is only $12,000. It depends on how many days per month they work. And then you put in your production goals for each provider for their total month production. Okay, so you go up to analysis, go to practice, and then you're going to click on the setup and you're going to go to goals. Okay, and then you're going to select the provider, you're going to select the year, you're going to select the month, and you're going to go put them all in. Now, what I would do is I would get like 3 months ahead, 3 or 4 months ahead. So I was always like a whole quarter ahead of the game. So that way, if I was looking at any kind of reports, I was always like one step ahead. So I always made sure that my team members always had their vacation hours in. So I knew what days and hours my team was working. Everything doesn't magically appear into your software. I wish it did. I mean, with AI, a lot of stuff can magically appear, like insurance eligibility magically appears. A lot of things magically appear into our software. So far, our production goals don't magically appear into the software yet. I'm sure it will eventually, but it doesn't yet. And so if you want to really take hold of your forecasting production and your ability to look at goals, this is the best way to do it. So I hope this helps. I hope it kind of adds on to that podcast you listened to a couple of weeks ago. And now you're able to see not only forecasted production, but also, are we at goal? Okay. If your team doesn't know the score, they can't win the game. Okay. All high performing dental teams book to production goal, all of them. All right, my friends, it has been a pleasure being in your ear for the last 15 minutes. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I look forward to watching your journey of becoming a high performing dental team.